Okay. And then any modifications, additions to the agenda?
The only one I wanted to bring to your attention was item 6C. There was a request to add a discussion item about commissioners getting access to the port's working files or archives.
Okay,
That's it.
any public comment? Anyone signed up for public comment?
Let's see, right here, we've got Dave Kohler.
Okay, and just a reminder, if you could just state your name and we ask you to please be courteous and limit it to 5 minutes or less. I know. We all wanna go outside.
Uber resident, local pilot, instructed at the airport for 10 years or so. Currently working as a designated pilot examiner. I think it's really exciting. There's a proposal to build new hangars up there. Yay. But I think the proposal to put them where they are is really, really wrong. It looked like the building permit said these are storage hangars. They don't want any access to parking. They have no employees. But the position they put them in is the absolute best place for any public-oriented multi-use building up here. If these hangars are built there, I don't know that you can really effectively build an FBO or anything else with public access on the building. The storage hangars, I think, and I've got a quick diagram I can share with you if you're interested. But these are just great big storage hangars, and they would work really nicely just over to the east. And that would allow, it would kind of keep the potential for any kind of a multi-use building up in the absolute northwest corner, where the parking is, where the gate is, where the visibility is. Any kind of a emergency response, an FBO, if you hide it back around the corner, people won't find it. So I just think that it's great they want to build hangars, and it's fabulous, but I think they're in the wrong place. So if you like my quick little diagram, I could share this with you just to show you kind of where I'd like to see it. Or not.
I think it was in the packet, yeah.
It's in the packet.
Yes. We have wonderful, wonderful people that keep us informed.
Well, thank you very much. Any questions for me? I just wanted to say that we love they're going up, and I just think that
It's very different.
Thank you.
They show us the two.
Any other public comment?
It's very different.
Okay.
Yeah, the second speaker is Judy Newman.
Oh, perfect.
Judy Newman, pilot. Farnham, been involved in aviation, and we did our first master plan back in the 1970s. We had a Hood River aircraft, so that's where I learned to fly back in the 70s, was at Hood River. And I think the plan of building hangars is fantastic. It's just not where I'm the same way. You can't go, if you look at the master plan, a master plan is a master plan. We've worked for years, 50 years later, we're still talking. The FBO has never made it to the north side yet. We started that back in 1974. That was the plan, because the fuel used to be over here, then we piped it over to the other side, then we decided it had to come back to the north side. We're finally sitting there with the north side. We got a road, we got a parking place, we got handicap parking, we got everything there. And that space, so if you come into Air Museum Road, which is now dedicated as being the front entrance to the airport, at least that's what they tell us. We kind of talked about Jeanette, but Jeanette complained. So we couldn't do Jeanette. Jeanette can be used for hangars or whatever, but if you look at the master plan, it shows you come in the Air Museum on the left-hand side, it's the FBO and their maintenance hangar. Then that stays open to the public, because you want people to come, the FBO is a fixed base operation. That's where people come to learn to fly. That's where they come for going for a ride. That's where they take flight lessons. That's where the classes are. That's where life happens. It's like a library. It's a public place. It's open to people. Beyond that, we don't want people driving, because that's where people are pulling their airplanes out of these hangars. So you put hangars where the FBO should be, you're pulling airplanes, that whole area becomes, we don't want traffic through there. Once you get to the hangar areas, then there's a gate, and you don't want people driving through. When you got an airplane sitting on the ramp, you don't want somebody driving them. So it's really important. So if you look at the master plan, it was done. And as a plan we did, same plan that came for a long time. We finally got it on paper. This last time it's there, it's official, and it says FPO where it should be, and that's where they made this new plan. Now, just a little bit of background. A couple of years ago, they took out a bunch of pavement on the south side and put hangers in. If you remember, all the pavement was taken out, we lost all those tie downs because they were gonna put 4-box hangers in there. Those 4-box hangers went to the downs. It's still gravel there, so we lost all the tie down space. That was supposed to be for box hangers. And then at the end of this, we come in for this parking for the FPO. At the end of that, on the east side along Jeanette, is a way for 2 big box hangers or 4-box. It's all been set up, it all powers in. We spent a lot of money. Those of you in the budget committee, we know we put all that money into power for the gas pumps. All that power went in for the water for the hangers, everything is there. It was all set up that way. And I don't know how, we didn't realize that even, we should have said something about it soon. We didn't know what's gonna happen. We got the notice from the department, like everybody else did, that this came in, as a permit. And we thought, no, it's not even going the master plan. I don't even know if it would make it through the FAA or anybody else. Once we have a master plan, that's been our trouble. We don't change it unless we have to go through hearings again to do that. So we're sitting here with suddenly our master plans change, and I've been involved a lot of years with that FBO, and anytime we want to change things, it's a big process. And we got one, and it's working. So that's my theory, is we've got other places, there's actually 2 different locations that these hangers could go in, and they've been approved on the master plan. And I just think they shouldn't move it over to where the FBO is supposed to be. If the FBO isn't there, then that means we gotta drive through all that hangar space. Where do you put an FBO? Are we gonna change it again? You know, where's it go? So anyway, that's fine. Any questions about that? I mean, we go back a long time. This is not a new plan. We've worked a lot of years to get this. And I think it might even have happened, right? But things happen, we can't afford an FBO, so the main things. If everyone's magic something, maybe we could, but we need to save it there for it. It needs to be there. That's my comments anyway.
Thank
And
you.
that's talking as me and this talking as Wham.
Yeah.
Because we'd still like to have the FBO right there. We want flying to be exciting for people. We would like to all be pilots.
Oh, goodness. Thank you. Thank you for that. Anything else, Kevin?
That is it.
Okay, we appreciate it very much. Okay, the consent agenda, I do see that there was one modification to the minutes from February 20th. If there's no other modifications or changes to consent, can I get a motion for approval with that one change?
I'm sorry, I was checked out. What change are you talking about?
Oh, just on, it was given to you. They just added a sentence of the bridge lift policy discussion from the minutes from the last
Okay,
meeting.
so that was the comment that I sent.
Correct.
to you guys.
Mhm.
Okay. That's fine.
So can I get a motion?
Would you approve consent?
Second?
Second, I second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor?
All right.
Aye. Okay. Any questions for Mr. Shannon on the bridge replacement project? Good
Yeah.
job on recent events. Everyone heard about the recent events?
Which ones?
Been lots.
We've been busy. All this money that I keep, no, just kidding.
Share with us the recent events, please.
No, so you had a new one, yes?
Well, a couple different things. I mean, everybody knows about the 200 million. We also got 8 million from appropriations, so 4 million from Washington, 4 million from Oregon. Thank you to the port, because part of that's going through the port. We will be signing the contract with Kiewit the 1st of April. So we'll have our designer contractor on board. I don't know if Debbie's gonna talk about the credit rating. We had that meeting today.
It's not on the agenda to talk about. You can talk about that.
Yeah, so we're moving that forward to get our credit rating so we can do our TIFIA loan.
Yeah, so I just want to jump in on the meeting that we had today. Debbie, I want to congratulate you. I thought you did an outstanding job kind of leading that effort and keeping all the cats pretty much coordinated.
Thank you.
I had an opportunity to talk to the 2 guys on the way back here, and although they said they can't tell me this. Basically what came out is they thought we had a strong, presentation. It's obvious that we're thinking ahead. We're putting the right reserves in place. We've got the right management, structure lined up to manage the organization and the bridge. So without them saying it, they said we had a very strong application, which we kind of figured.
Yeah, thank you.
Great,
So, yeah, so just a lot going on.
lots going on.
You'll, hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll be designing and moving that forward, and then it's gonna really get.
Mike, you want to just touch base on the two recent earmarks and the funding for the admin relocation and
Yes.
our approach on how we're gonna tackle that?
Yeah, so the two appropriations, one of them was for preliminary engineering. That was the one from the Washington side for 4 million. The one from the Oregon side was specifically earmarked for right of way and travel mitigation. So we had a good conversation with FHWA because we don't have our needs, so we need to figure out a way for the port to be able to be reimbursed and be able to do what they need to do in order to move. It's gonna take a little bit of legwork, so we are actually tomorrow, I'm meeting with our Summit Strategies, our DC lobbyist. We're gonna have to push to get someone to acknowledge that we can pre-bill some of that and then get reimbursed after. I think there's a possibility to do that. It's just getting to the right person to say it. Everybody agrees that everything's in place, the NEPA's about done, it's legitimate charges. So hopefully we can get that moved forward, and then we'll have that funding to reimburse the expenses that we'll take to relocate the port office and do whatever other right-of-way activities that we need to do, so.
Great.
Yeah, so
Perfect.
it'll be good
Hey,
to see that.
can I interrupt again? I didn't notice Kerry was sitting there, or I would have mentioned him earlier. This whole effort that we talked about on the credit rating. I want to also acknowledge Kerry and his team and the vast amount of work that they did to make today. I think it's going to turn out to be a strong success. So again, Kerry, thank you very much.
All right, any other questions? Okay, on to presentation discussions items. First up, Mr. Greenwood for the RV park.
Yes, so you've got my staff report there. The only thing I wanted to report back that wasn't in there is that I did attend the county commission meeting last night. Presented on the RV park direction from the commission, which was really to see if there was interest in the county moving forward on the land use process. And so the good news is that they did agree to direct their staff to work with the port to do a legislative text amendment to the code. That for temporary use. But there was a moment where they talked about a more permanent use. I would say that there was probably mixed discussion amongst the county commission on that. One of the things that was coming up that kind of they were a little bit hesitant about is the community of Odell is going to be going through a kind of a comprehensive plan process in the next couple of years, where things like this and RV parks and mobile home parks will be reviewed comprehensively. So there was some thought that as Odell starts their process, that there could be an opening for something more permanent. So that's the guidance that staff received from the commission last week. So that's good news. It doesn't include the business side or the preliminary cost engineering or any of those other elements. I do have a meeting with Odell Sanitary District. If you recall, the SDCs were just about 7,000 per hookup. The manager, it's kind of interesting because the manager felt like he could advocate for, if it was going to be a temporary use, one SDC per tax lot, and that was the 40 to 50 space smaller park. But that they would want assurances that it was indeed going to be temporary. So there might be a little bit of an agreement that if it starts out as a temporary facility and Odell's agreeing to the one SDC and then over time it changes, the port should be prepared in advance to negotiate, if there is a more permanent facility there.
Or you ignore it, build a temporary and deal with it if and when it happens.
And I think that's what we're gonna be talking on Friday, is just how are they gonna feel about making sure that it is temporary.
Sure.
Sure.
And frankly, to me, it's gonna be temporary unless down the road we get a waiver. Right now, today, it's gotta be temporary.
Right, but then we'll have $700,000 worth of development charges to cough up.
If it's not too.
Well, you were talking about the whole site.
Correct.
Okay.
So if there's 40 times 7, so that's what 280,000, so. I'm just saying that we go in there paying one, if it becomes permanent, then at some later date, we're gonna have to pay the full freight.
That's
Or,
fine.
or
I
have a
think.
conversation.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because at that point, we'd only make that decision if it was gonna be profitable.
Yeah.
So.
Yep, and I've been talking to a couple other sewer districts, and a lot of sewer districts will actually have a fractional REU.
Mhm.
So like 0.5 REU per RV space, so anyway, the one thing that I'm interested to get your feedback, but if you're interested in continuing on, then we'll just need to have to engage a land use planner to start writing that code with the county.
But we still don't have a clear idea if this is gonna be a profitable project for the port.
That's the business case has not been determined yet, and so. We're on the cusp of having an architect on board that can begin. Putting a pencil to paper and getting you some better numbers on that front, but the guidance last month was really just to look at the political support and
Yeah.
not necessarily the financial aspects. So I guess what I'm looking for, if you're interested in proceeding with the county, we will need to engage a land use planner to start doing some writing.
How much money do you need?
When I got the preliminary cost estimate for the whole
No,
site,
no,
it was 20,000.
20,000 for the land use planner?
Now I can,
Vote to proceed.
okay, I can let you know that I did talk to the Eric Walker up at the county. And I kind of asked him, if it was his project, if he could wave his magic wand and decide whether or not to do it or not. He said, if we're comfortable moving forward with the assumption that it's going to remain temporary and we can be profitable. But if we're banking on it being a permanent thing, that might be the question. So if we can legitimately say we can move forward, still considering that it may only be temporary.
So here's another thing to consider. Now I'm putting my other hat on for a minute. On the Bridge Authority, we're encouraging folks around the region to come up with some ideas, bring it to the board, talk it through a little bit, but the board's responsibility is connect, in this case, you guys, us, with Kiewit, and let you guys have some discussions with Kiewit, and the deal that you strike with Kiewit, the authority is totally out of it.
Mhm.
Now, could Kiewit bring money to the party to help develop? Maybe. That's totally up to them, how they want to do it. They can give you a better feel of how many spaces you could probably fill. But again, I think the discussion, and you're probably close enough right now, once we get Kiewit under contract, if I was us, on the other hat, I'd be sitting down with Kiewit and take them out there, show them the property, start to get a discussion with them. How do they see solving the bigger picture, which is getting temporary housing for the workforce?
Okay.
And something may come out, something could say, forget it.
So is that the direction you'd like to recommend is just to,
Yes.
Okay.
I think you've got enough information now. You have a feel. I think personally, I think your estimate's still high on what it's gonna cost to put it in. But I think it's mature enough that you can have a decent discussion with people, and it's not gonna cost you anything.
just a little time, that's okay. then.
Yeah.
Okay, does everyone think that that would be okay if we just directed staff to move forward in a conversation, to see the feasibility that a potential build or contractor sees in that? Okay, I'd like to. Okay.
Yep.
Okay,
Okay, so I won't talk to a land use planner quite yet. We'll just reach out to Kiewit once they're under contract and see, take them out there and kick the tires a little bit. Great, thank you.
perfect. Next up, waterfront development, Karen.
Hello, commissioners. We wanted to check in with you regarding development along the waterfront other than lot one. Every year we get dozens and dozens of requests of how people might want to utilize the waterfront, bringing in new businesses, use of the land, use of the water, et cetera. And as much as the crowds have increased, so has the ask to use the land. So for the sake of efficiency, we thought we would check in and see if you are interested in perhaps an overarching policy of bringing all these different proposals to you to help streamline it, kind of as guideposts. Right now, we don't have any policy or anything in place. So anybody who comes to us with an idea that's somewhat feasible, we, bring to you. So if it's something you think you might be interested in, we could come with it to spring planning and different variations of it. An example would be like the Marina Basin. It doesn't make sense to listen to proposals for use of it when the whole thing is up in the air of how it's going to be used for the bridge replacement project. So if we decide, hey, we want to have a moratorium on any kind of things that we might develop in that area, except for the use of boathouse dock, when that becomes available, we could do something like that. Use over the water, use of the land all around, lots of asks for Nichols Basin, but really until the roundabout gets developed, First Street gets redeveloped, the decision with the use of lot one, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So we're just trying to be really efficient with staff time, commission time, and fairness to people who are asking.
I think it makes a lot of sense to collect requests and interests and then have that be a special aspect of spring planning and fall planning, to have us kind of look at everything and weigh it. So.
I also think as we develop our kind of plan for after the First Street realignment and lot one ideas develop, we're gonna have a better idea of what kind of projects do we want to see down there, and then we can vet out ideas easier.
I think in the meantime also, and maybe forever, it does make sense for staff to have some direction on things that they do not need to spend a lot of time and effort on just for it to get here and go nowhere. So probably all those things.
Is that something that you feel that you could bring to spring planning of your recommendations of what?
Absolutely.
Wave your magic wand and.
I mean,
Okay. So is everyone okay with having that be a part of spring planning where we could maybe have some sort of a framework policy put into place of how we deal with asks?
and then just the policy perhaps being evaluated annually in case you want to change it.
Perfect.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and then the third is access to internal documents. So I wanted to clarify that a little bit before I let you talk, Mr. Greenwood. So it was brought to our attention, at the end of commission meetings, we bring up directives follow-ups, let's, make sure we're looking at this, standard operating procedures, stuff like that. So one of the talks was, communicating that back with. If a commissioner wanted to know, where are we at with that, or I wanna see. What's happening with that, and so I said, well, that's really easy, you just have a spreadsheet. Here's the ask, here's where we're at, here's when it's completed, any notes that were made. And so one of the things was, instead of printing it out all the time and putting it in the packet or having commissioners request it. Maybe there's a use for, and this would be a question for, we use RadComp, yeah. To put it, like, I know our particular business, we use Google Drive because it's HIPAA compliant, and then you talk to offices, you share files, and that way there could be certain files that are on Google Drive, and if commissioners wanted to have a look and see where we're at with the project, it's one document being edited by one person and other people can see it. So that was kind of the ask of, do we want to see something brought to the commission that would be more accessible to whoever we choose it to be accessible to?
So in my mind, there's a couple of different components here. One is that we need to see whether the actions that have been assigned, are they actually getting done? And when there's a commitment, are we meeting the commitment? Are we beating it, or are we slipping on it? So that's, I thought that was kind of the purpose of this kind of master action items list. Now, how we manage that, whether we do it through email, send it to everybody, or we put it on some kind of a shared drive that we all have access to. Cool. The key thing that I think coming off of that is not so much the list, but how do we know we've got, and I'm gonna make up a number, 15 procedures that we've got to get done? Who's got the ball? When is it gonna get it done? Are we still forecasting the same date? It's done. Now we've got people trained on it. And it's now totally implemented. I don't see, maybe you guys have got it, but I personally don't see that discipline yet.
Well, what we've had in the past is we've got the Excel spreadsheet that has tabs for each of our projects and the various milestones.
And I read that cover to cover, but it stopped. I don't see that anymore.
Well, we used to have pretty extensive Friday memos that would go out every Friday. I was kind of under the impression that that was almost too much information, but we could certainly, if that was a helpful document, I could send that back out.
That helped, but I think you need to add on to it, especially, we're making a big deal right now about operational procedures. And some of us have talked about a need for another one, which is on the current bridge, a catastrophic safety response plan. But once we assign that, we need to be able to, I think in this meeting and others, make sure from a due diligence point of view, it's getting done. And it feels like to me, and maybe you guys step in, it goes into the black hole and we don't know when it's gonna come out.
In that case, are you talking about that one
No, I'm just talking in general, all of the procedures and so on, and sometimes I know, you sent me one or two drafts. But I'd like to see where are we in total. It's not my job to read every one of those procedures, but it is my job to make sure that you guys are writing it. And to make sure that we're following them. I think it's part of my job, part of all of our job is oversight. So I think that's where Christie's coming from. And we're not saying anybody's doing bad things. We're not saying that at all. We just think we need to hold each other more visual accountable to make sure that we're getting it done. And if we can't get it done, how can we help you get it done? We don't know that you need our help if we don't know you're not getting it done.
Well, I could certainly start resending those project sheets and just. If that will help, and if there's a need to add.
As long as all of those procedures are on there and you've got to define who's doing what to who before the next step.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
okay. Sure, absolutely.
Just thinking of examples and things like that. I don't want to create
Yeah, I don't wanna create more work.
more work, but if it's how staff's tracking. Use directive anyway. I can go look at it. I mean, I can think of multiple examples where I have. Called or emailed Kevin about things I know are directives. And I haven't heard about it at all for 6 months. Like, where the heck are we on this? Why aren't we doing it? Oh, well, we found this, had a perfect example. At the strike hangar, like, where's the sign? We said put out there 9 months ago. Like, that's not okay. Well, I had no way to know without having to email or call that there were some door issues that we're looking at and where we're gonna put it. We don't have to do something and then redo it and spend more money. That makes perfect sense. If I could have just looked that up, I wouldn't have to bother.
But I think maybe we're kind of saying the same thing.
Mhm.
Kevin, you're responsible for all of this stuff. What tool do you use to make sure you're on top of all of it?
Yeah.
Just give us access to that tool.
Sure, oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So it sounds like it's transparency,
Yes.
not micromanaging.
Yeah, it's the same document that I sent back, 6 months ago, but I can wrap that back up and send it back out.
Okay.
And if it's not of interest, you just hit delete.
Well, again, we want to use what you use.
Yeah.
I don't wanna make
Should
new
be
work.
no extra work other than it's sent.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got, right now, every project that we have has a schedule with the various milestones, contacts. And then there's the directive. So a lot of times there's the one-offs.
Mhm.
And so, those kind of go into just a running total. Patty kind of manages that based when she's doing the minutes. And then we review those with the full staff. So absolutely, we can easily just send that out on a monthly basis or whenever you'd like to see it.
Okay, perfect.
So if I could, I'd like to take this time to add one to your list. And you received a letter from Mike, a copy of a letter on the December, January timeframe on the foundations of the bridge. And if you remember in there, it basically said through the core drilling process for the new bridge, an outfit made a comparison to the old bridge. And there was indications on the Oregon side, the old bridge piers weren't driven all the way into rock,
Right, just to gravel.
and Mike asked this outfit to do a simplified liquefaction study. That letter documents that it appears we have a problem with piers 6 through 11 with liquefaction. We didn't hear what kind of a seismic event would take to trigger it. But we now know that piers 6 through 7 or 6 through 11 are susceptible to liquefaction. In my humble opinion, I think we as the port have to put together an emergency response plan that hopefully we never have to use. But if we have to use it, we better have one.
Mhm.
Otherwise, we could be in jeopardy in a whole bunch of different areas. And the indication may be that if we do have liquefaction, we're not just gonna lose the piers, you probably will drop the deck into the water. So now we have people potentially in the water. So I think we need to have our emergency response procedure. We need to train everybody on it. We need to coordinate with the other emergency response people in the area. So we all know what we have to do if something bad happens. The second piece of it, I think we need to consider as a group, with the hiring of Kiewit, perhaps we ought to put in an emergency contract with them that if an event did happen on our old bridge and they've got their barges and their cranes in the area, we would immediately tap into them to come over and provide aid. Now, would they do it anyway without a contract? Of course they would. But this recognizes that this potential is right next door. And I think it would behoove us to be proactive enough to sign some kind of agreement for mutual aid. Not gonna cost much unless we have to use it, and then if we have to use it, we're not gonna care. And it just shows the outside world that we're thinking ahead. And we're planning for the worst. The worst thing could happen is if it happened. And we're looking at each other like, who's got the ball? Then personally, I think we all better duck. So again, my plea, I think. We need to give direction to the port. And if they need some extra help to write it, we'll find it. But we need an emergency response plan if we have a catastrophic event on the bridge caused by whatever reason.
It would probably be a good person, to talk to the county emergency services department, isn't it Barbara Ailes?
She retired.
Oh, she retired,
not too long
okay.
ago, so I don't know that they replaced her.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
It was great.
But they have a manual that we could probably start with as far as,
Well, we actually have an all hazards emergency
Okay,
operations
okay.
plan.
Okay.
But it's a little different than what you're talking about.
Right.
It's more about like fire and
Mhm.
issues out in the marina and that sort of thing. So, one of the things that, we're getting a little off this, access to internal, documents, but I think that we've been talking about taking that 30-year CIP for the bridge and kind of truncating it down to an 8-year CIP. Because it just doesn't make sense to include painting, just $35 million on an 8-year plan. So insurance is another one.
Mhm.
And so I think that's that Ryan is working with our engineers right now to kind of create that plan. So I think this is a perfect
Time for that.
time to kind of put these operational plans, and actually seeing whether they should be done, even with the 8-year horizon.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
I think your risk is going up every day. It's not going down because we've got a bridge coming. This bridge is aging. We now have some engineering data that says the foundations are subject to risk
Under a certain size.
under a certain
Yeah.
condition.
We just need the manual.
Yeah,
What's the event? Did it say what the event would be? What kind of an event?
They didn't do that much analysis on it.
Okay.
It's a lot more analysis
Yeah.
to go to that. And I
Yeah.
don't know if it really tells you other than
So we can just put that on staff directive to add it to the list. Perfect. Okay. Now we're up to Kevin's executive director report. Is there anything else you wanted to point out on your executive director report, Kevin?
Well, there's some things that have come up in the last few days that I'd like to share with you. I did follow up with Bill Oley, so, we have the IGA with the Bridge Authority later on. Michael did send over the assignment. Part of that is to assign all of the contracts that the port has over to the Bridge Authority. And so I did forward the assignment document from HNTB, and so Bill Oley is reviewing that. Just one comment, Mike Shannon is going to be giving a bridge update presentation to Rotary this Thursday. It's going to be very well attended, so let me know if you want to attend. I think that's going to be, a lot of people are saying they're going to be there for that, so please attend. I signed a short contract with the Port of Cascade Lock for the use of our boat and 8 hours of labor to help with the reinstallation of their port's pedestrian bridge. Really just providing kind of a safety function. So it's a pretty small contract, but just letting you know that that's taking place this week. Also learned this week that the ODOT Region 1 is removing the East Anchor Way extension from the STIP. If you remember, the STIP, the East Anchor Way was included in our congressionally directed spending. For the roundabout, we referenced that key number. But Region 1 has indicated that it's too much of a change from the East Anchor Way extension. So they're actually removing that step or that key number until ODOT approves the roundabout. So we got a meeting Thursday. KPFF is meeting with ODOT to get the next level of feedback
So
from.
they're not taking the money back. They're putting it on hold until we get a revised authorization to apply. to
Yes,
the
the
roundabout.
key is though, our congressionally directed spending it has to be in the STIP.
Mhm.
And so it's probably gonna jeopardize that funding for this current year. Let's see.
Not. Same story.
I mean, can you make that a little more concrete?
Yes, so when we received $500,000 in immediate opportunity funds a few years ago for the East Anchor Way extension, that got it into the 24-27 step. When we presented to ODOT with KPFF, our engineers presented the roundabout concept, they're like, wonderful. So the project delivery people, the planning people are starting their process. When we put the key number in the earmark request, we got feedback from Merkley's office that Region 1 is saying that it's not the same project. So I called Tara Langley today, who represents the Gorge, and she said, well, right now Region 1 views it as a distinctly separate project and will need to be amended in order to get back into the STIP.
But won't they look favorably upon it because ODOT backs it?
Well, that's what's going on right now,
Okay.
is
Okay.
we're going through the feedback loop. But they're saying April or the first of the month is when these requests need to go forth. And so, we're trying to, Thursday is gonna be a big day to see if we can get their technical team to review
Mhm.
all the traffic counts and the preliminary engineering from KPFF.
But one reason why we changed was because we realized that ODOT, the key for further development down there is a roundabout.
Mhm.
Exactly.
So instead of building a bunch of infrastructure down there that may not be allowed in the future because we can't get enough cars into the,
Yeah.
Exactly.
so I would certainly make
Well,
that clear.
Well, I did. I made it very clear because when you look at the STIP project, it says the construction of the East Anchor Way to improve traffic access from 84 to the waterfront, to improve safety and
Next
limit,
to that.
and it's like, wait a minute, we're still doing this exact same thing.
Mhm.
And they say, well, this money's for the construction of East Anchor Way.
Doing the same thing, but better.
Well,
But there is an
But wait,
amendment
there's-
process.
There is, my concern is making sure that it gets done before April 1, because
Yeah.
that's the earmark cycle.
so
Okay.
here's some experience that I've got. When you go to them, the answer is no. You go to them again, the answer is no. Go to them a third time, the answer is no. The fourth time is, well, maybe, and the fifth time is okay. So you don't give up, just keep chewing at them until you get the right answer.
I think this is our 6th or 7th meeting, so. Keep plugging away.
Keep going, keep going, keep
You're
going.
trying to-
Another reason why we need Scott on.
Okay,
And then just one other thing on the Mount Hood Meadows, extend the spring ski schedule. And with spring events starting in April on the waterfront, I'll be communicating that the Meadows employees should be parking in the north end of Lot 1 during this transition. So everything else, I just wanted to acknowledge that Jay Cruz on our team just celebrated his 25th year here at the port, so we threw a little party for him.
Given
And
Timex,
what's that?
given Timex.
We got Ixtapa for the game.
That was
Everybody
gonna-
loves
That was
Ixtapa.
gonna be my comment on this. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
Because that's unique in
Awesome.
itself, being somewhere for 25 years.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't know Jay, one of the nicest, most personable
Yeah.
people you're gonna be around, and a great representative of the board.
And we're gonna run a little social media
good.
thing on him this week, just to let people know, put a face to the port and.
Did you
Pass
pass
along
along
our-
form or anything?
Yes,
Yeah.
we did hear, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Pass along our congratulations.
yeah,
Yes, please do.
absolutely.
It was also Steve Dupree's 27 year in the same month.
Oh, my gosh.
So,
And then we have a 24-year
yeah,
anniversary.
24 is coming up in,
Wow.
I have to look at his, but it's in a few months.
That makes me happy.
75 years of experience on the maintenance staff. So there's a lot going on, so
Yeah.
I'll stop there and
Okay.
let you continue on.
All right,
Does everybody know what SEI report is that we have to file?
yeah.
Everybody's good.
We gotta keep getting emails.
Yeah,
Holler at me. If you have a
It's
problem
very
filing it,
easy.
I've done it. They have a
First.
problem with a new version of it this year they're having issues with. So if anybody has a problem, call me and I'll walk you through it.
okay.
It's, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But you have to do it. Okay, any commissioner or committee reports? I don't think that there was anything. And then action items, Haler facility repairs, Halyard.
Yes, so I'm gonna pitch it here on this topic, so
Yeah, where is-
this is to replace the loading dock surface, which is part of our responsibilities as the landlord. And the bay door on the one of the suites in the building.
Mhm.
The total cost on those two items is just over 65,000. So as the landlord, our responsibility is to maintain the actual infrastructure, those things that aren't specific to the tenant. And so that's what's being recommended here.
You've looked at the roll-up door and it's, I'm gonna use the term appropriate to the use. You can spend a bucket load of money on roll-up doors and have various sensors to open it as you walk by and all that. You guys have looked at it and you feel confident that you got the right door for the operation.
I haven't personally looked at it, but
Who's looked at it?
That Greg and has been working with the business owner out there.
I'll give you my opinion. I'd like Ryan to do a quick double check on that.
I'll do that.
Do you want to make the motion contingent on facilities manager review?
And approval.
Okay.
So Ryan needs to say, yeah, right door, I agree.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Okay, is that your motion?
That's my motion.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
I,
All right. Motion passes, IGA with the Bridge Authority.
Big day. This is the handoff.
Is it? I mean, it's kind of like a divorce, it's not a divorce, it's like sending your baby to college.
We're just changing the pants. Who wears the pants?
Yeah. We're
we're gonna have to use
the
that.
Eagles left the nest.
But I felt like I did put some bullet points in the staff memo. I'm not gonna read them to you, but I wanted to draw your attention to those items that I thought. I know you're intimate with this document, so it wasn't for your sake, Commissioner Fox. But for the balance of the commission, I just wanted, those are the things I've been hearing from you. And so I just wanted to make sure you saw where those items were in the agreement and we're obviously recommending motion. I mentioned the fact that we're already getting ready to assign the HNTB contract. So.
And the Bridge Authority has previously approved it
Mhm.
at the last board meeting. And I think this is another major milestone in the evolution of getting a new bridge in place.
Just it. The
And I-
big day.
Personally, from both sides, I think it's fair on both sides. So I thank Christie for working on the port side
It's Heather too.
and Heather as well. And then on the other side, we had Arthur and Jake very much involved in it, and I stayed the heck out of it.
And Michael and I talked a couple times.
Yeah, when they would yell at us, we would not.
So we're still friends, right?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
No, it's I have a couple comments on that.
Just on the assignment, we are in the process of doing a new amendment to revise our term, the lengths of our contract of when it starts and ends. So it used to be on the fiscal year.
Yeah.
We're gonna match it up to the phase of the project now.
Oh, that makes sense.
So, that's probably gonna happen in early April.
Mhm.
So I don't, and this is, I'm not saying I answer today, but the timing of trying to get that approved and get the assignment approved, do we want to get the assignment approved before we do the amendment? Because depending on whether it is or isn't,
Yeah.
determines who has to sign off on.
Yeah, let's get this signed tonight.
It's just-
I think.
Wait,
it's just
Special
get it
meeting on
signed
that.
it's
tonight,
just coming
Yeah.
up.
and then
Okay.
we'll start an amendment on it.
Okay.
That'll work. Anyone want to do a motion?
I move that, we sign and approve the, IGA on the table between the port and the New Bridge Authority.
Can I get a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations.
I don't
That's
see
a
the
lot of work.
news on the, I don't see the newspaper here,
know.
but this is a very significant,
It's pretty big.
very significant milestone.
We're not,
Authority can have a bank account then.
They can't, they
Yeah.
can start depositing some money.
we're not responsible for the bridge anymore.
They probably feel a little, we will.
It's weird.
A little weird, right?
Yeah.
Michael, when are you gonna get a real executive director for the Bridge Authority?
I have no idea, but yeah, I know I'm not an executive director, that's what I have, so.
Right
I
behind you.
just, yeah, there you go. He's expensive, that I'll just warn you.
Okay, well, congratulations.
Actually, we got a good one right now, there's no need.
Sorry.
All right, action item C, Mr. Greenwood.
Yes, so this has been the work on the negotiations on the master services agreement for the owner's rep contract with WSP on the roundabout discussion. And so we've held a total of 4 negotiations with Scott Kyler, who is here in attendance. And so there is an attached work order in here. I do want to draw your attention. It's a lot larger than probably what you're expecting, but I think the big item there are the 2 contingency items. The biggest one being the construction management, which is quite a ways off. And so that really drives the price up. So, and then on the grant, there was a comment about the size of the grant component. That not only did that include 3 grant writing efforts, but also included 2 cost benefit analysis or BCAs. And those tend to be a little heavier lift. And so there's budget for 2 of those. So that's the explanation on the grant line item.
So is there a guarantee option on here that we're gonna get one of those 2 grant writing? Is that in the contract?
It should be.
It should be.
In the recitals. Let's put it in the recitals.
Yeah.
I
You
obviously.
need me to help you write it?
Oh, I hear you loud and clear. No, I think that the perfect example of what we're up against is the change from East Anchor Way to the roundabout is going to be something that we're going to need to reconcile. So even though we'll see how this earmark request goes, and we're going to continue to work with our federal delegation, we need to kind of get that cleaned up. And so I think that's going to be the first order.
I personally think this is the right thing to do. It gives them technical arms and legs to the whole lot 1 area and future growth, and it'll give you a lot more flexibility. So.
And it's worked out pretty well for the bridge replacement effort. So I think it worked out pretty well for the bridge replacement effort. So
Yeah, we got kind of an okay contract.
And I think this contract is front loaded as we requested. That's why the numbers on task 1 through 7 are higher than we thought. And, we didn't ask Scott to put in the entire management number, but I'm glad he did. So you can kind of see like, well, that would have been the next step anyway.
Yeah.
And so we'll come back to that, but it is front loaded like we asked. It's an aggressive schedule.
Thank you for all of the work that you put in.
Like these 2.
Yeah, I think the agreement is actually really well written. I
Mhm.
like how it's structured. We have the the grant writing up front, the deliverables, and then we kind of see how that goes before making a further commitment. I think that's awesome. That's great. So I like it.
Okay,
I vote that we approve the work order to hire WSP as owner's rep.
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
I
Aye. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
All right. Action item D. Purchase agreement with Mount Hood Railroad.
Yeah, so in your packet is the staff report from Greg. This has been reviewed extensively by Barry Elsner and Hammond. It's gonna take me a while to remember that. But they've reviewed all the documents. Ashley, if you remember Ashley, she worked with the Mount Hood Railroad's attorney. And so I don't think there's a lot of surprises in here.
There was one.
Which one was that?
I'm fine selling it. The numbers seem fair.
Yeah.
I have never been a part of a real estate transaction where I got away with putting 4.5% down. Why?
As far as the down payment? Yeah.
$5,000 on $110,000 sale.
deals like that.
That's, how did that come about?
You know, I think that was,
Like an escrow.
I think it was because of relatively short term. Maybe that it was more on the short term. This was a deal that Greg and I had been working on, but Greg was taking the lead on that. And so,
I mean, the interest rate's fine, so if we don't want the down payment, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But it's just an incredibly low number for a down payment.
And I think that might have been driven partly by the interest rate that we said, if you're gonna put that little bit down. I had two requirements. I wanted the better interest rate and also ease of repossession if the payments don't get made. And so that was my two requirements for this contract. So I think it was, the interest rate was kind of driven by the low down payment.
and actually the repossession item, actually, we had to go back a few times on that one.
Okay.
So
Okay.
anyway, staff's recommending approval on this based upon the guidance from the Port Commission last year.
I move we approve and sell the property for the document.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Action item E, negotiations with Sun Design Studios for architectural services.
Yes, so we are at the point where Some Design was the highest scoring architectural firm. As you recall, we had 10 submittals for this. We narrowed it down to 3. We did the second round tours. And so it was a good discussion amongst the evaluation team. That was Ryan, Greg, and I evaluated those proposals. They actually did a tour of this building and then met with Marcella, our office manager, just kind of get a sense of workflow. Then went over to the Marina East building. I just took a look at it and really kind of did, the exercise was to do a draft work order 1. So it's not a formal work order 1, but it allowed the evaluation team just to kind of see their approach, how they were utilizing resources. And it also gave us a chance to talk to them and build a rapport and see who we could felt comfortable working with. And so we're at the point now where we're entering in, we need to enter into negotiations, so we need that approval. If you recall, this is a master services agreement. There's lots of different work orders out there. One of the things that we were thinking would be the first work order would be this architectural remodel of the Marina One building. But because the funding is a little uncertain, we may want to pull back on that. And so some of the other items that we're looking at is starting to look at lot 5 and even the East Marina lot for parking, paid parking. We've got the RV park, and maybe we're not quite there yet to bring an architect on to start doing a full, next level design. But I think the first one would be to start looking at where we can do some asphalt and striping and increasing the opportunity for paid parking on the waterfront.
Question on this one. Obviously, this is moving and moving quickly. seems like a great spot for now, for the project, for. We haven't had the discussion about. What a permanent home looks like after project. I assume that we're not gonna be spending enough money here that would have to be in that form. It's just, we need to get moved, we need the proper place, so if that's the case, great. I don't see facilities being addressed. Should we ask the architect in their. Process to take a look at what it would cost to put up something temporary. For facilities over there as well, at the same time.
You mean the maintenance shed kind of thing?
Now, obviously, that would not be a $10,000, $3 million building, that would be something. To take the place, but it makes sense for it to be right over there as well, either between those two buildings and the gravel lot, who knows, but. Should we have them take a look at that as well, because that needs to be addressed.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we have a template, we have the draft work order that was part of the second round scoring. So when we sit down and ready to negotiate that work order, easy to add that in. And we'll have a little bit of time. I mean, obviously, my concern is if we're shooting for that October 1 at 10 o'clock on 2025. You know,
No,
Or 9,
no, for construction to start.
well, we're not,
it's 10:30.
Oh, is it 10:30?
Okay, I saw the stopwatch at the office,
that's for the opening of the bridge.
but.
We have
this
a
is-
very specific date and time.
what I'm concerned about is that, like, we were thinking that some of these grant applications were gonna take a full year. To get signed, sealed and delivered,
Mhm.
that's what March of next year.
We're
that's-
working on with federal highways to try and get approval, recognizing that we need to go earlier. And allow us to, if you will, back charge it back into a grant, taking this building down and modifying it. And we gotta. Kind of take a deep breath and go through that process. But once it goes through the process, then full speed ahead.
Great. We'll work on it.
Got a meeting with Summit tomorrow.
That's
so we'll
right.
know a little more about what we can do.
So staff's recommendation in regards to some design studios is to enter into negotiations with some design studios for a master services agreement and a work order to design, permit and construct parking at the East Maritime and Lot 5 sites.
Can I get a motion for that?
I so move.
And we'll be, I'm sorry, we'll be looking at Ben, we'll be bringing versions of this and there's gonna be an opportunity for you to engage.
I was just thinking of a way to not limit ourselves here, why say just parking at those two places, parking on various waterfront locations.
There you go.
And if you wanna add one, you don't have to come ask us.
Okay, it's fine.
Okay.
So moved. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great, thank you.
All right, commission call. Any commissioners have anything they'd like to share?
Are we not doing the real estate agent?
That was in there.
That was in
So
consent.
consent.
Oh. Okay, I missed that one.
So I can just add, I did talk to Ann after we talked, and she is open to that 5%, to a 5%.
So did it get into the? Was the consent item reworded?
So what I would recommend, no. So what I would recommend is that we modify that, because that literally happened like at 3:30 this afternoon.
Okay, so
We can do-
let me tell everybody my
Where
concerns
the
with
Supreme
that,
Court
guys.
decision about real estate.
Is that we're signing a long-term
Yeah,
agreement
yeah.
with Copper West to sell property as we want to sell property. And I'm questioning, why are we doing that? Especially when the environment is changing and changing pretty quickly across the country where typically it's 3 and 3. Seller, buyer, and the seller pays the 6%. What's happening is that 3% on the buyer side is very much becoming negotiable. In a lot of cases, the buyer now has to pay the 3%. So why are we locking ourselves in for a period of time if we want to sell something? Initially, it was at 6%. And I'm going, why are we doing this? Number one. Number two, if we're gonna use this same outfit for a period of time, why aren't we getting a discount for using you? You're not having to do any work to get our business, you got it. So why aren't we getting some kind of a discount? 6%, guys, is a lot of money. So we ought to be doing something different, I think. Otherwise, just sign an agreement for one particular project and then let the market decide when we do the next one. And see what the market condition is as this whole thing changes. We may be able to save quite a bit of money.
Well, one idea is to go ahead and pull, you can do another motion. You can retroactively change the first one. And you can pull the percentage out and just put it in each listing agreement. So if you recall, the idea was to have a master services agreement, so we don't have to go out and procure a real estate agent each time. But you can put the percentage in each individual listing
I didn't
agreement.
even,
Yeah, but you have you have no leverage at all. Because you signed the contract with Copper West.
Well, but that's,
How many structures are we gonna sell in the next 5 years?
well, the only reason that we were thinking 5 years is if you wanted to look at one of the north Odell lots. Is that there was the other thing too is we are also looking potentially at roof leases, this and could look at other revenue opportunities for us. So, there's a lot of other things having a real estate agent on board for to look for opportunities for the port.
If that's a concern, we could just yank the interest rate, like Kevin said, that's an interesting idea, amend it, yank the interest rate. I would recommend honoring on the first one, what's in there, but then yank it. And negotiate that each time, should it come up again.
Maybe we're saying the same thing. If we're gonna keep this deal, we say, okay, the first one's at 5%. The second, third, fourth is all negotiable.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
all right, Robert's Rules of Order, how do we make that change?
I believe we need to make a motion
yeah.
to pull the motion for consent agenda.
Yeah, I would just say a motion to pull the prior item, the prior MSA.
Mm.
And to edit it to include 5% for the existing Big 7 cell. And the other future cell would be negotiated.
Okay,
Now,
that.
one last, if we decide that we can't cut the deal, can we walk away from the contract?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
then I'm fine.
I second your motion.
I'm not making the motion, I'm saying.
Succinctly, so it'll be on the
I
video.
move that we modify the previous consent item on regarding
Deed, consent deed.
contract with Copper West. To modify it where the first property sale will be at 5% total fee. Subsequent sales will be negotiated individually.
Okay,
Second.
any discussion? All in favor?
I
Okay. Okay,
Sorry about that, Commissioner Fox. I knew
Oh,
that
you
was
know,
an
I was having
item
a
for
fight.
you and we just, yeah. So I didn't want it to sneak through without you getting the chance to make comment on that.
any other commissioners have anything that they'd like to say? If not, any issues with the upcoming meetings? And besides the standard operating procedure for emergency on the bridge, were there any other confirmation of commission directives to staff? I don't think so. Okay,
I think it's just. Daryl.
Daryl's coming back to us, spring planning here. Okay, then if that's the case, we're adjourned.
Cool. Thank you.